Say in your mind, say to yourself, I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
Broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void. We are live on this Wednesday. It's 11 after 9 here in Arkansas on the 26th, 2024. I hope everybody is ready to learn. I hope you got your learning caps on, because we're diving deep into the Tree of Life with Dion Fortune. We're going through a book, The Mystical Qabalah, which is pretty much audio reading with commentary and phone calls and whatever else decides to come into the show. Also, I want to tell everybody that the network is we need your help, man. You know, we do. We need your help for the radio to survive. Like, this show is always going to do something, but the radio, for it to survive, it survives on donations. So, guys, we need your help if you can help. Anything. Doesn't matter. It all works, okay? We've increased in listenership, so they've increased in servership. Now, this is not your fault. This is my fault. So I'm not putting it on you. This is 100% my fault. Because let me be honest with you, if I was to run a radio, like a digital radio station that didn't have, decent music, it wouldn't cost much. It's like $20 well, it starts out as like $20 a month or something. But since I like playing whatever we want to play, it costs money. So it's not your fault. I don't want to be one of those guys that like guilt trip people into helping. So it's not like that. But if you can, help out the station. So we left off. We're reading, someone asked in the YouTube chat, what did you ask? The name of this book, right? It's The Mystical Qabalah. Tinfoil hat is on. Does that count too? What do you mean? As far as like, does what count? What's up, Barefoot? But anyways, shit, I lost my train of thought. So we were reading The Mystical Qabalah. Where did we leave off? in the beginning, it's a little bit boring because she talks about the history of the Kabbalah, where it comes from, and then she kind of talks about why she's revealing all these secrets. Back in the early 1900s, this was a big secret, I guess. Let me get the glyph up here. Oh, your learning cap, yeah. Well, your tinfoil hat. If you got a tinfoil hat, that works. Speaking of which, I just recorded an episode with Juan Ayala on the One-on-One podcast. I don't know when it comes out. He runs a legitimate podcast over there, so it'll probably be a few weeks before that show comes out, but it'll be out. It'll be out, so be looking forward to that. We get into some pretty deep discussions about alchemy, the homunculus, and some crazy stuff that's going on in science right now. I'll just put it to you like this. There's scientists out there that are making human brains. They're actually making human brains for computers, synthetic brains, so that our future computers won't be microchips. They'll be brains, little bitty brains. And since I talked about it on Juan's show, we won't talk about it here, but just to be fair, but look into it, because that might be I know it sounds crazy, but that might be the computer of the future. They made little brains like that fire off neurons, and they are trying to keep them alive. But basically is what they're doing. They're trying to keep these brains alive, and they're going to be the new microchips. Not little plastic pieces or silicone pieces, but brains, little brains. So the people that are worried about AI, like you're worried about AI nowadays, today's AI is not AI. It's not AI. Like AI stands for artificial intelligence, right? This thing is just an algorithm that digs on Google. So when you ask a question, it goes to Google and answers your question, and based on whatever algorithm. That's not really artificial intelligence. However, there's a company out there that is making little brains, and I got to talk about it because it's crazy. It is crazy. And they're feeding these brains like rewards and punishment based on what it does. So they're training these little brains to be CPUs. That's pretty tinfoil hat, right? So once they get this thing going, it's all over but the grind, man. It'll be Terminator 4 or 5, whatever. Okay, I got to get into this because this is extensive, right? So we're going to get into negative existence. So remember at the top of the tree, you're going to have 3, and it doesn't show it on the glyph that I'm showing on YouTube, but you're going to have 3 little lines up here, and that's called the Ain, the Ain Sof, and the Ain Sof 4, which is like, I think it's negative existence, limitless negative existence, and something. It's basically like 3 steps. It's not that important, but it needs to be talked about. So we'll talk about, this is all theory, negative existence. So she says, the esotericist, when endeavoring to formulate his philosophy for communication to others, is confronted by the fact that his knowledge of the higher forms of existence is obtained by a process other than thought. And this process only commences when thought is left behind. Consequently, it is only the region of consciousness which transcends thought that the highest form of transcendental ideas is known and understood. And it is only to those who are able to use this aspect of consciousness that he can communicate his ideas in their original form. When he wants to communicate these ideas to those who have had no experience of this mode of consciousness, he must either crystallize them into form or fail to convey any adequate impression. Mystics have used every imaginable simile in the endeavor to convey their impressions. Philosophers have lost themselves in a maze of words, and all to no purpose so far as the unilluminated soul is concerned. The Kabbalists, however, use another method. They do not try to explain the mind, that which the mind is not equipped to deal with, which makes sense, right? Like, you shouldn't try to explain things that there's no way the mind can comprehend. It's a waste of time. They give it a series of symbols to meditate upon, and these enable it to build the stairway of realization step by step and to climb where it cannot fly. The mind can no more grasp transcendent philosophy than the eye can see music. The tree of life, as cannot too often be emphasized, is not so much a system as a method. Those who formulated it realized the important truth that in order to obtain clarity of vision, one must circumscribe the field of vision. And most philosophers founded their system upon the absolute, but this is a shifting foundation, for the human mind can neither define nor grasp the absolute. Some others try to use a negation for their foundation, declaring that the absolute is and must ever be unknowable. The Kabbalists do neither of these things. They content themselves with the saying that the absolute is unknown to the state of consciousness, which is normal to human beings. For the purpose of their system, therefore, they draw a veil at a certain point in manifestation, not because there's nothing there, but because the mind as such must stop there. When the human mind has been brought to its highest state of development and consciousness can detach itself and, as it were, stand upon its own shoulders, we may be abide to penetrate the veils of negative existence, as they are called. But for all practical purposes, we can understand the nature of the cosmos if we are content to accept the veils as philosophical conventions and realize that they correspond to human limitations and not to cosmic conditions. The origin of the origin of things is inexplicable in terms of our philosophy. However, far we push our inquiries back into origins in the world of manifestation, we find a preceding existence. It is only when we are content to draw the veil of negative existence across the path which leads back to the beginning that we get a background against which a first cause becomes visible. And this first cause is not a background against which a first cause becomes visible. I'm sorry, I just read that line. And this first cause is not a rootless origin, but a first appearance on the plane of manifestation. In other words, no one knows what the hell it is. Not even science. Nobody knows what it is. So, thus far, and no further can the mind go back, but we must always remember that different minds go back different distances. And for some, the veil is drawn on one plane, and for others, in another. The ignorant man goes no further than the concept of God, as an old man with a long white beard who sat on a golden throne and gave orders for creation. That's really the only two explanations we have so far, right? Like God or Big Bang. The scientist will go back a little further before he is compelled to draw a veil called the ether, and the philosopher will go back yet further before he draws a veil called the absolute. But the initiate will go back furthest of all because he has learnt to do his thinking in symbols, and symbols are to the mind what tools are to the hand, an extended application of its powers. So the Kabbalist takes for his starting point Kether, which is the top there, the top sphere, the crown, the first Sephirah, which he symbolizes by the figure 1, unity, and the point within the circle. From this he traces backwards the 3 veils of negative existence, which again, I'm sorry I don't have that glyph here, but it's supposed to have like 3 lines above the white sphere up there. PK says, I have the funniest clip of you with Juan. You're like, so wait a minute, you're thinking the homunculus is the answer to the biggest riddle? The homunculus, yeah. The homunculi. So these words, let's see, hold on. Where the hell is it? Oh, yeah. So the Kabbalist takes for a starting point Kether, the crown, the first Sephirah, which is unity. And from this, he traces backwards. So above that would be 3 veils, or backwards, a negative existence. This is quite a different matter from starting at the absolute and trying to work forwards into evolution. It might not yield immediately accurate and complete knowledge of the origin of all things, but it enables the mind to make a start. And unless we can make a start, we have no hope to finish. So the Kabbalist then starts where he can at the first point, that is, within the reach of finite consciousness. Kether is equated with the most transcendent form of God that we can conceive, whose name is Ehyeh, which is spelled E-H-I-E-H, translated in the authorized version of the Bible as I am, or More explicitly, the self-existing one, or pure being. Like the Moses, the I am that I am. But these words and nothing more, but these are just words and nothing more, unless they convey an impression to the mind. And in themselves, they cannot do that. They must be related to other ideas before they have any significance. So that just means that, like, we can't define things without relativity, right? We only begin to understand Kether when we study Chokmah and the second Sephirah, its emanation. It is only when we see the full unfoldment of the 10 Sephiroth that we are ready to approach Kether, and then we approach it with the data that gives us the key to its nature. In working with the tree, it is wisest to keep on going over it, rather than to concentrate upon a single point until it is mastered. For one thing explains another, and it is out of the perception of the relationship between the different symbols that enlightenment arises. Again, we say, the tree is the method of using the mind, not a system of knowledge. I'm going to stop there at 7. So, like, for instance, so if you look at the left and right pillars, right? So on the right pillar, you got, I can't think today. So you've got Chokmah and Netzach and Geburah, not Geburah, but the other one. Can't think of the name of it right now. My mind's drawn a blank. So anyways, and on the left you got Bina, this Gedula there. Chesed, sorry. So on the left pillar you've got Bina, Geburah, and Hod. So let's just take these two top ones here. Chokmah and Bina. They're opposites, right? Complete opposites. Male, female, positive, negative, active, passive, whatever you want to call it. So you can, when you look at that glyph, you can say that mercy is the opposite of Geburah, like the blue one's the opposite of the red one, in other words. Chesed is the opposite of Geburah. Mercy is the opposite of severity. So left and right, you see the opposites, is what I'm saying. But as things emanate down, they're kind of like emanations of mirrors. So, for instance, if you take this right pillar with Netzach, Chesed, and Chokmah. So Netzach is in Chesed, and Chesed is in Chokmah, and all three energies reside in Chokmah. So it emanates down. It's like an expanding, flowering energy that goes down. But if it's left or right, they're mirroring kind of opposite energies. And then, of course, you've got the middle path, and then you've got all the other crossways and stuff. So basically what Dion Fortune's saying is try not to fixate on one thing. Like if you study a sphere, let's say you're studying Bina, the top, very top left one, and you're like, okay, Bina, it's color black, it's a triangle, you got Saturn there, it represents the feminine, all this stuff, right? And you just start focusing on it. You're forgetting that it has these other energies inside of it too. Like you have to keep the mind moving and flowing. That's why I call this thing the tree of life. I call it the flux capacitor for consciousness. Yeah, I know it's just said, man. Like just my brain sometimes I'm getting old. It draws blanks. I think what it is I have PKs. I have Mercury and Aries. I have like a lot of Aries energy. So I speak, and it's a bad thing. I know it's bad, but I speak. And then she go into the clip off. Yeah, she does. So I speak and then I think. Right. I hate that, but that's what I do. Grant Gets Out said, this was the first book I read on Kabbalah a couple years ago, and it went way over my head, but your reading much more is informative. You're reading much more as information being absorbed. Thanks, man. That's what I'm trying to do, is get people to understand it. All right. So number 7, but at the moment we are not engaged in the study of emanations, but of origins. So far as the human mind may hope to penetrate them, and paradoxical as it may appear, we shall penetrate further when we draw the veils across them than when we try to pierce the darkness. We will then sum up the position of Kether in one sentence, a sentence that can have but little significance for the student approaching the subject for the first time. but which must be borne in mind, for its significance will begin to dawn presently. In so doing, we are adhering to the ancient esoteric tradition of giving the student a symbol to incubate till it hatches in his mind, rather than explicit instruction which would convey nothing to him. The seed sentence, then, which we cast into the subconscious mind of the reader is this: Kether is Malkuth of the unmanifest. The limitless ocean of negative light does not proceed from a center, for it is centerless, but it concentrates a center, which is the number one of the manifested Sephiroth, Kether, the crown, the first Sephiroth. So, it's concentrating upon a center, basically. Don't think of it as, in other words, don't think of it as a circle. Think of it as energy that's concentrating upon a center, trying to come into focus, I guess. These words in themselves contain contradictions and unthinkable. Negative light is simply a way of saying that the thing described, though having certain qualities in common with light, is nevertheless not light as we know it. This tells us very little about that which it is, and what is that, entitled to describe? We are told not to make the mistake of thinking it as light, but we are not told how to think of it as it really is, and for the very good reason that the mind is not equipped with any images under which to represent it, and must therefore let it alone till it takes place. Nevertheless, although these words do not tell us all that we would like to know, they convey certain images to imagination. These sink into the subconscious mind which are related to them. Thus, knowledge grows from more to more when the Kabbalistic method is given its practical application as the yoga of the West. So again, she's just reiterating, look, I'm explaining the negative existence and Kether, right? And your mind's not going to comprehend it, but the more you work with it and the more you work with the tree and the more you do this stuff, the more you're going to understand. You're going to understand it. So earlier she was saying that Kether was a reflection of Malkuth. So Malkuth is in Kether and Kether is in Malkuth. So think of, if you want to simplify it, think of the beginning of existence as that top sphere up there. Like, let there be light. Bing, that's that top sphere. And think of the fully manifested existence as that very bottom sphere of Malkuth, right? As it kind of shows that 10-sided star that flowers out there. So, you can also think of that story of Narcissus. You remember when Narcissus saw his reflection and fell in love with it? Not narcissist, but the actual mythology of Narcissus. Narcissist, that's how I say it, right? The Kabbalists recognize 4 planes of manifestation. This is all going into Kether. It's not even in the tree yet. And the 3 planes of unmanifestation of negative existence. The first of these is called the Ain, the A-I-N, negativity. The second is Ein Sof, which is the limitless. And the third is the Ein Sof Or, which is the limitless light. It is out of this last that Kether is concentrated. These 3 terms are called the 3 veils of negative existence. So you've got the Ein, right, which is, I guess, nothingness. Then the Ein Sof, which is limitless. And then the Ein Sof Or, which is limitless light. And then it all concentrates upon that center in Kether, right? Well, it's right before it's about to make something, I guess. It is out of this, these 3 terms are called the 3 veils of negative existence. Depending back from Kether, in other words, they are the algebraic symbols that enable us to think of that which transcends thought and which at the same time hide that which they represent. They are masks of the transcendent realities. If we think of the states of negative existence in terms of anything that we know, we shall err for whatever else they may be. They cannot be that, being unmanifest. I know it's confusing. And if you ask me, this whole idea of the Ein Sof, the Ein Sof Or, it's not even worth contemplating. To me, it's redundant. But if I'm going to make an audio book out of this, I got to read this too. The expression, or the veils, therefore, teaches us to use these ideas as counters of no value in themselves, but useful to us in our calculations. This is the true use of all symbols. They veil that which they represent until we can reduce them to terms we can comprehend. Nevertheless, they enable us to use in our calculations ideas which would otherwise be unthinkable. And as the essence of the tree lies in the fact that it causes its symbols to elucidate one another by means of their relative positions, these veils serve as the scaffolding of thought, enabling us to take our bearings in regions as yet uncharted. And such veils, or non-concrete symbols, are, however, of no value to us unless one side of the veil abuts upon known country. The veils, in fact, while they conceal that which they represent, enable us to see clearly that to which they form a background. This is their function, and the only reason they are referred to. It is only by reason of our infirmities that we need to have these unresolvable symbols presented to us, and the mind disciplined in esoteric philosophy soon learns to work within these limitations and accept as a painted veil the symbol of that which lies beyond its ken. This way lies the unfoldment of wisdom, for the mind grows with what it feeds upon, and one of these days, when we have climbed to Kether, we may hope to stretch out our hands and rend the veil, and look through into limitless light. The esotericist does not limit himself by declaring the unknown to be the unknowable, for he is above all things an evolutionist, and knows that which we cannot compass today we may achieve tomorrow of cosmic time. He knows, too, that evolutionary time is an individual matter upon the inner planes and is measured, not regulated, by the revolution of the earth upon its axis. This is a lot of bloogity-blook, bloogity-bloop, if you ask me. I've also heard these 10 plus 3 aeons mentioned as the 13 aeons of the Gnostics. Maybe. Could be, yeah. Like basically what she's saying is that we have to see the background of existence and we have to call it something. And this is what we call it based on what we know at the time, which is the Ain, the Ein Sof, and the Ein Sof 4. It is one of the most incomprehensible things in all of mind and esotericism and anything to know what came before existence at all. That's like when you hear people say, well, if God's God, well, who's God of that God? How did he get here? And there's like this endless argument that happens, you know. Well, God doesn't have a beginning. It is the beginning and the end and all this stuff. And this is basically the Ain, the Ein Sof, the Ein Sof 4. These 3 veils, Ain, negativity, Ein Sof, the limitless, and the Ein Sof 4, the limitless light, though we cannot hope to understand them, nevertheless suggest to our minds certain ideas, and that's really all they're supposed to do. Negativity implies being or existence of a nature we cannot comprehend. We cannot conceive of a thing which and yet is not. Therefore, we must conceive of a form of being of which we have never had any conscious experience, a form of being which, according to our concepts of existence, does not exist, and yet, if one may express it so, exists according to its own ideas of existence. In other words, of a very wise man. There are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in our philosophy. But although we say that negative existence is outside the range of our realization, it does not mean that we are outside the range of its influence. I just call it the void, man. If this were so, we could dismiss it as non-existent so far as we are concerned, and our interest in it would be at an end. On the contrary, although we have not direct access to its being, all that we know as existing has its roots in this negative existence, so that although we cannot know it directly, we have experience of it at one remove. That is to say, although we cannot know its nature, we know its effects, basically. In the same way as we are ignorant of the nature of electricity, yet are able to turn it to good account in our lives. Well, we're not ignorant of electricity, Dion. That's a bad analogy. And form our experience of its effects, we are able to come to certain conclusions concerning some at least of the qualities it must possess. Those who have penetrated furthest into the unseen have given us symbolic descriptions by means of which we may turn our minds in the direction of the absolute, even if we cannot reach it. They have spoken of negative existence as light, Ein Sof Or, the limitless light. They have spoken of the first manifest as sound. In the beginning was the Word. I remember once hearing a man who was an adept, if ever there was one, say, quote, "If you want to know what God is, I can tell you in one word. God is pressure." End quote. And immediately an image leaped to my mind, and a realization followed. I could conceive the outflowing of life through every channel of existence. I felt that a genuine realization of the nature of God had been conveyed to me. And yet if one cattle, what is that word, cattle? I got something on my screen, or is that a... One cattle to analyze the word, there was nothing in them. Nevertheless, they had the power to convey an image, a symbol to the mind, and the mind, working upon it in the realm of intuition beyond the sphere of reason, achieved a realization, even if that realization could only be reduced to the sphere of concrete thought as an image. Yeah, I can see why someone would read this book and be like, hey, I don't get it. Listen, 11 spheres, one is hidden, Daath. Yeah, Daath is hidden, but it's not really a sphere, which is why they hide it. More like a portal. I can see why you wouldn't understand this, because she just blah 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 a lot about a lot of things that she could simplify. But basically, what she's saying is in my opinion, is that even if it's something that we can't understand, but if we put a symbol to it, that symbol helps us convey to our subconscious something to define it. Plus, we've experienced it. And symbols have a way of describing things that we can't. It probably are the best things to describe either experiences or wisdom that we cannot really articulate, you know. They just have a way of doing that. Okay. Little by little, like a rising tide, realization is concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere. And we shall make a great mistake if we try to prove with Herbert Spencer that because a thing is unknown by any capacity of the mind we at present possess, that it must forever be unknowable. Time is not only increasing our knowledge, but evolution is increasing our capacity and initiation, which is the forcing house of evolution, bringing faculties to birth out of due season, bringing the consciousness of the adept within reach of vast apprehensions which are as yet below the horizon of the human mind. These ideas, though clearly apprehended by himself after another mode of consciousness, cannot be conveyed to him to anyone who does not share this mode of consciousness. He can only put them forth in symbolic form. But any mind that has in any way had experience of this wider mode of functioning will be able to lay hold on these ideas on their own plane, although it may be unable to translate them into the sphere of conscious thought. In this way, therefore, in literature of esoteric science, there are scattered seed ideas such as God is pressure and Kether is Malkuth of negative existence. These images, whose content does not belong to our sphere at all, are as the male germs of thought which fecundate the ova of concrete realization. Fecundate. I'm writing a book, so I've got to use fancy words. In themselves, they are incapable of maintaining more than the fugitive existence in consciousness as a flash of realization. But without them, the ova of philosophical thought will be infertile. Impregnated by them, however, though their substance is absorbed and lost in the very fact of impregnation, growth takes place within the formless germ of thought, and ultimately, after due gestation beyond the threshold of consciousness, the mind gives birth to an idea. If we want to get the best out of our minds, we must learn to allow for this period of latency, this impregnation of our minds by something outside of our plane of existence, and its gestation beyond the threshold of consciousness. The invocations of an initiation ceremony are designed to call down this impregnating influence upon the consciousness of the candidate. Hence, it is that the paths of the tree, which are the stages of illumination of the soul, are intimately associated with the symbolism of initiation ceremonies. Woo! All right, so we got past that, right? The Ain Sof, the Ain Sof 4. I will say this, like the neophyte initiation does feel like that. It's like you, because like when I did it, I didn't read I think I read books, but I didn't read the ritual. Like I didn't know. And a lot of temples will do their own thing to the ritual too. So they'll add a couple of things, maybe a surprise in there or something. But it does feel like that. Like this, you can kind of comprehend what's going on, but all the symbols that you see in the initiation, and it's like overwhelming almost to the mind, you know. But it is kind of getting, like you could say, hammered into your subconscious. All right, so the Etzachayim, the tree of life. Before we can understand the significance of any individual sephirah or sphere, we must grasp the broad outlines of the tree of life as a whole. It is a glyph, that is to say, a composite symbol, which is basically a symbol made up of a bunch of parts, which is intended to represent the cosmos in its entirety and the soul of man as related thereto. And the more we study it, the more we see that it is an amazingly adequate representation. We use it as the engineer or the mathematician uses his sliding rule to scan and calculate the intricacies of existence, visible and invisible, and external nature or the hidden depth of the soul. It is represented, as will be seen from the diagram, as a set of 10 circles arranged in a certain pattern and connected among themselves by lines. The circles are the 10 holy sephiroth, and the connecting lines are the paths, 22 in number. Each sephirah, which is the singular form of the word sephiroth, or plural form of sephiroth, is a phase of evolution. And in the language of the rabbis, they are called the 10 holy emanations. The paths between them are phases of subjective consciousness. The paths, or grades, or the, grade step by which the soul unfolds its realization of the cosmos is the paths between them. The sephirah are objective. The paths are subjective. So the spheres are solid, like there's easily definable, solid. They are what they are. The paths that you go and, quote, path working between the spheres are subjective. So there needs to be a relationship between you and the experience of crossing through that path to define it. And it's pretty definable only by you and your experience. Let it be recalled again that I am not expounding the traditional Kabbalah of the rabbis as a historical curio, but the structure that has been raised upon it by generations of students, initiates, all of them, adepts, some of them, who have made the tree of life their instrument of spiritual development and magic work. This is the modern Kabbalah, the alchemical Kabbalah, as it has sometimes been called, and it contains all manner of things besides traditional rabbinical lore, as will be seen in due course. Let us consider the general layout and significance of the tree. It will be seen that the circles which represent the Sephiroth are arranged in 3 vertical columns, and that the head of the center, higher than any other, forming the apex of the topmost triangle of Sephiroth, is the Sephirah Kether, to which we referred in the previous chapter. To quote again the words of MacGregor Mathers, quote, "The limitless ocean of negative light does not proceed from a center, for it is centerless, but it concentrates a center, which is the number 1 of the manifested Sephiroth, Kether the crown, the first Sephirah." Madame Blavatsky draws from Eastern sources the Pteron, quote, "the point within the circle," to express the first becoming of manifestation, and the idea is contained in the rabbinical term nekwada Rashunab, the primal point, or a name applied to Kether. But Kether does not represent a position in space. The Ein Sof Or has been called a circle whose center is everywhere, and whose circumference is nowhere. A statement which, like so many in occultism, is inconceivable, yet nevertheless presents an image to the mind and therefore serves its purpose. Kether, then, and for the matter of that, all other Sephirah, is a state or condition of existence. We must always bear in mind that the planes do not tower up one above another into the empyrean like the stories of a building, but are conditions of being, states of existence of different types. And though they develop successively in time, they occur simultaneously in space, existence of all types being present in a single being. And as we realize, we remember that the being of man is made up of a physical body, emotions, mind, and spirit, all occupying the same space and time. Just like the tree. If anyone has ever watched a heated liquid at a saturated point crystallize out as it cools, they will have a useful symbol of Kether. Fill a tumbler with boiling water and dissolve in it as much sugar as it will take up, and then, as the mixture cools, watch the sugar crystals appear. When you have done this in actuality, and not merely read about it, you will have a concept under which you can think of the first manifest coming into existence out of the primordial unmanifest. The liquid is transparent and formless, but a change occurs within it, and it crystals solid, visible, and of a definite form. The definite forms begin to appear. And equally, we may conceive that a change occurs within the limitless light, and Kether crystallizes out. I do not propose at the present moment to go deeply into the nature of any of the Sephirah, but not at the moment, but she definitely does, but merely to indicate the general scheme of the tree. We shall go over the ground again and again in the course of these pages until a comprehensive concept is built up. This can only be done gradually, and if we spend a great deal of time upon an individual point before the student has a general concept, much of that time will be wasted because the bearing of that concept on the scheme as a whole will not be understood. The rabbis themselves apply to Kether these titles: concealed of the concealed, and the inscrutable height, hinting that there is not a great deal that the human mind can hope to know about Kether. It is worthy of note that exoteric Judaism, exoteric Judaism, to whose liabilities Christianity is not altogether fortunate heir, does not contain any concept of the emanations or overflowing of the Sephirah one from another. It declares that God made the sea and the hills and the beasts of the field, and we visualize this process, if we visualize it at all, as the work of a celestial craftsman fashioning each new phase of manifestation and putting the finished product in its place in the world. This concept kept science back for hundreds of years in Western Europe, and in the end, men of science had to break with religion and endure persecution as heretics in order to arrive at the conception of evolution which was explicitly taught in the mystic tradition of Israel, a tradition with which the writers of the Old Testament were unquestionably familiar, for their works are full of Kabbalistic references and implications. The Kabbalah does not conceive of God as fabricating, creating stage by stage, but thinks of the different phases of manifestation as evolving one from another, as if each Sephirah were a pool which, being filled, overflowed into a lower pool. You ever notice that too in like Crowley's cards? You'll see the cups, like say the 10 of cups or whatever, the cups will always have some, like they'll be filled up. If it's a good card, the cup will be full and stuff will be coming out of the cup, overflowing into another cup below it. So that's what they mean by emanation. So imagine all of these states of being as emanations that from Kether down kind of overflow into the next one, into the next one. To borrow again from McGregor Mathers, hidden mown acorn is an oak with its acorns, and hidden in each of these is an oak with its acorns. So each Sephirah contains the potentiality of all that come after it in the scale of downflowing manifestation. Kether contains the rest of the Sephiroth, 9 in number, and Chokmah, the second, contains the potentialities of all its successors, 8 in number. But in each Sephiroth, only one aspect of manifestation is unfolded. The subsequent ones remain latent, and the preceding ones are received by reflection. Each Sephiroth, then, is a pure form of existence in its essence. The influence of preceding phases of evolution is external to it, being reflected. And these aspects, as it were, having been crystallized out in the previous stages, are no longer in solution in the outflowing stream of manifestation which ever proceedeth from the unmanifested through the channel of Kether. When therefore we want to find the essential nature, the basis of manifestation of a particular type of existence, we get it in the Sephiroth to which it corresponds when we meditate upon the Sephiroth in its primal form. For there are 4 forms or 4 worlds under which the Kabbalists conceive of the tree, and these we will consider in due course. They are only referred to now in order that the student may have enough background to see the picture in perspective. The student will find it very helpful to refer to the chapters in The Ancient Wisdom by Annie Besant, which deals with the phases of evolution. These throw much light upon the subject with which we are dealing, though the system of classification is not the same. Let us conceive of Kether, then, as a fountain, which fills its basin, and the overflow therefrom feeds another fountain, which in turn fills its basin and overflows. The unmanifest forever flows under pressure into Kether, and there comes a time when evolution has gone as far as it can in the extreme simplicity of the form of existence of the first manifest. All possible combinations have been formed, and they have undergone all possible permutations. Action and reaction are stereotyped. There can be no new development save the combining of the combinations among themselves. Force has formed all possible units. The next phase of development is for these units to combine into more complex structures. When this occurs, a new and more highly organized phase of existence begins. All that has already been evolved remains. But that which evolves now is more than the sum of the previously existing parts, for new capacities come into being. This new phase represents a change of mode of existence, just as Kether crystallized out of limitless light. So the second Sephiroth, Chokmah, crystallizes out of Kether in this new mode of being. This new system of actions and reactions which have ceased to be simple and direct and become complex and tangential. We now have 2 modes of existence, the simplicity of Kether and the relative complexity of Chokmah. Both these are simple, and that no kind of life known to us could he maintained in them. Nevertheless, they are forerunners of organic life. We must say that Kether is the first activity of manifestation, or movement. It is a condition of pure becoming. Rashith HaGilgam, the first swirlings, the commencement of whirling motions, as it is called by the Kabbalists, or the prima mobile, as it is called by the alchemists. Chokmah, the second Sephiroth, is called by the rabbis Mazloth, the sphere of the zodiac. Here we have introduced the concept of the circle with its segments. Creation has moved onwards. Out of the primordial egg has developed the serpent that holdeth his tail in his mouth. As Blavatsky chronicles in her invaluable storehouse of archaic symbolism, the secret doctrine, and Isis unveiled. In a similar manner to that in which Kether overflowed into Chokmah, does Chokmah overflow into Bina, the third Sephiroth. The path pursued by the emanations in these successive overflowings is represented upon the tree of life by a lightning flash, or in some diagrams, by a flaming sword. It will be observed by reference to the diagrams or the lightning flash that must proceed from Kether outwards and downwards to the right to reach Chokmah, and then turns on a level course to the left and proceeds an equal distance beyond Kether upon the side, and there establishes Bina. The result is a triangular figure upon the glyph, and it is called the triangle of the 3 supernals, or the first trinity, and is separated from the rest of the Sephiroth by the abyss, or Da'ath, which normal human consciousness cannot cross here. And I was just talking to this about Juan earlier. Here are the tools of existence hidden from our eyes. Ooh, yeah. So you've got the Kether basically is like all of every kind of energy there is. It crystallizes into a point. So manifestation begins, shoots out, makes Chokma, and then Chokma makes Bina. And inside of Bina, you have all of these energies. You have the energy of Kether, Chokma, and Bina inside of Bina. And that first triangle is called the first supernal, but it all exists in that triangle. So think of it as first, like the beginning, the very first, like male sperm, and then the female. That's the way I look at it. The big cosmic mommy and daddy, Chokma and Bina. Right, so you've got this energy, like Chokma is just like this energy. It's just energy. It's kind of chaotic, but it's energy in motion. The cosmic sperm, so to speak, just, and then it goes into Bina, and Bina is the first like feminine energy, or the first, I guess you could say, omega, that encapsulates all of the energy of existence. But the first circle is actually made in Chokma. There's not, I know it shows a circle, but remember he said that in Kether, it's not a circle. It's existence that concentrates upon a center. The first actual circle is made here, or the first relativity. Or you can even look at it like 1D, 2D, 3D, if you want. A dot, a straight line, and then a triangle. All of these things, as you study this stuff, and she'll get more into it later, you'll start to understand it, you know. Yeah, first wand into the first cup, right? Yeah. Radio station time, and then we'll get into the three supernals. And then hopefully, let's see, the three supernals, and then after that, what's after that? Because this book just gets better and better as it unfolds. It really does. It's just a whole bunch of philosophic mumbo jumbo that I can't stand about books, period. Just give me the information, right? Okay. I'll try to, maybe if I have time during the radio thing, I'll see if I can, well, I don't know. I was going to say, I'll see if I can try to find a flaming sword image, but stay with us.
This is Marcus 45, fan of the Fridge FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Roop. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. right here on Fringe FM. Bumper stickers are a fun side hustle with low-cost investment that has built-in advertising to attract local customers in parking lots, rallies, gatherings, conventions, venues, and more. You could potentially sell these bumper stickers on consignment to local businesses, tattoo parlors, head shops, or any other independently owned store that might gear toward the Fringe. Bumper stickers are great gift-giving ideas for friends and family. Also, a way to wake up your fellow travelers on the path without having to waste energy in tiresome debates. No car? No problem. Bumper stickers will stick to just about anything with a semi-smooth surface. Go to www.justbsme.com and get your bumper stickers today.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working.
Who, me?
Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey.
Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Is that a faucet running? That's not a faucet. That's a river rushing through the forest. Forest rivers provide over 100 million people with clean water to drink.
What? I can't hear you because of the vacuum.
That's not a vacuum. That's the trees in the forest cleaning up the air we breathe.
I didn't know the trees were so amazing.
Yep, and the forest gives us shade, trees to climb.
That's awesome. Let's go explore some more.
Visit the forest today and enjoy all it does, just for you. To learn more about the forest and find one near you, go to Discover the Forest.
You are listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Has gravity got you down? Do you not understand the difference between a wave or a particle? What about the planets? How do all those rotate around each other? Laws of physics and other sciences can be confusing. So the next time you're curious just how exactly E equals MC squared, hire a highly trained and qualified professional. That's right, it's Space Lawyers. Space lawyers are skilled in litigation with the laws of time, space, cosmic ghost pirates, and various other lawyerings. Each space lawyer has a PhD in space law from the Cosmic Hall of Space Justice, and they can get you out of just about any sticky situation. So stop bonking your head on things, or accidentally creating big bangs with your haphazard studies in quantum physics. Leave all of that to the highly trained professionals prepared to litigate these laws for you. Just call 1-800-SpaceLawyer.com for more info.
Space Lawyer!
Space lawyers cannot be used in a regular court of law. They can only accept cash and no cosmic traveler checks nor Visa debit cards. Please wait up to 4 cosmic business days for our space lawyers to get back to you.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
If you take a step towards me, you will take my breath away. So I'll keep listening to Lighting the Void Radio. No one else has ever loved me. No one else has ever tried. I never understood how much I could take. Then I saw the worst was over when I laid my eyes on you. It was all that I could do to know my place. Out of all the past illusions, out of all the dreams come true, I was gone until I finally saw your face.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio Live here on the Fringe FM. One of the only true radio-style podcasts left on the planet. You can always tune in to this radio station at fringe.fm. You never know. I mean, this is the Forest Tower Studios. We have other radio hosts that have live access to the radio station. You never know. We might go live on here at any point in time and just surprise you. So it's good to tune in. Plus, we're going to be having to do some future fundraisers and stuff like that because costs have increased, so we've got a market increase and whatever. But tonight, here on this show, we're getting deep into the Kabbalah. See, what I want to do is, I don't care how long it takes, right? But for those that are interested, after this, I guess you could say this section of books is over, most people should have a general understanding of the tree. I'd say a general understanding. The problem is that the beautiful part of this book, in my opinion, doesn't get beautiful till you get into the later chapters and she starts describing the energies of each Sephirah. But her complex descriptions of the tree are a little bit painstaking, which is no fun, right? But look, and also you can call in anytime you want. If you got a question, you want to chime in, you got a comment. If you know more than Dion Fortune, and yes, don't ever think that it's not possible that you might know something more than old authors, no matter how good they are at what they're good at. Like we're evolved now, so if you know something, you want to comment, chime in, it's 501-777-5631. Yep. All right. We're gonna get back into it. And this all goes for the people that listen to the podcast too. The archives are coming. Jesus. I had an issue with Adobe, man. Like, I had to take care of it, so I'm so sorry. So we're getting into this. We are in chapter 7, though. That's good news. The 3 supernals. So, having considered and outlined the development of the first 3 divine emanations, we are now in a position to obtain a deeper insight into their nature and significance, for we can study them in relation to each other. This is the only way to study the Sephirah. In other words, the only way to study the Sephirah, or how they relate to each other. For a single Sephirah taken by itself is barren of significance. The tree of life is essentially a scheme of relationships, stresses, and reflections. The rabbinical books apply many curious appellations to the Sephirah, and we learn much from considering these, for every word in these books has a weighty significance, and none are used lightly for the sake of idle poetic imagery. All are as precise as scientific terms, which in fact is what they are. So the first supernal is, you guessed it, right? Kether, Chokmah, and Bina, that top triangle there. So the meaning of the word Kether, we have already noted. We've already talked about it. But it means crown. And Chokmah means wisdom, and Bina means understanding. But pendant to these 2 latter Sephiroth is a curious and mysterious third, which is never represented in the glyph of the tree. This is the invisible Sephirah, Da'ath, which means knowledge, and it is said to be formed out of the conjunction of Chokmah and Bina, and is situated astride the abyss. Crowley tells us that Da'ath is in another dimension to the other Sephiroth and forms the apex of a pyramid of which Kether, Chokmah, and Bina form these 3 basal triangles. But to me, Da'ath represents the idea of realization and consciousness. So let us now proceed to elucidate the 3 supernals according to the method of the Mystical Qabalah, which consists in filling the mind, or filling the mind, with all the correspondences and symbols assigned thereto, and letting contemplation work among them. It will be observed that these 3 and their mysterious 4th all contain symbolism relating to the head, which in the archetypal man represents the highest level of consciousness. When we seek in the rabbinical literature to see what further names may have been applied to them, we find yet more head symbolism applied to Kether. This, although not specifically referred to them, may be taken to embrace the other 2 supernals also, for they are aspects of Kether on a lower plane. The rabbis called Kether, among other titles, which we need not consider now, Eric Ampin, the vast countenance, the white head, the head which is not. The magical symbol of Kether, according to Crowley, is an ancient bearded king seen in the profile. McGregor Mather says, the symbolism of the vast countenance is that of a profile in which one side only of the countenance is seen, or as it is said in the Kabbalah, and him is all right side. The left side being turned towards the unmanifest is for us like the dark side of the moon. So we can see the face of God, so to speak, which is called what else? Pineal. So what do you think Kether corresponds with in the human body? We can get into that later, right? Yeah, there's a pineal gland right there. But Kether is primarily the crown. Now the crown is not the head, but rests upon it and above it. And therefore Kether cannot be consciousness, but the raw material of consciousness when considered microcosmically, and the raw material of existence when considered macrocosmically. For there is twofold way of considering the tree, as we have already noted. It can be regarded as the universe and as the soul of man, both. And these two aspects throw light upon each other. In the words of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes, as above, so below. Kether differentiates into Chokmah and Bina before it achieves phenomenal existence, and these two are called by the Kabbalists Abba, the supernal father, and Amma, the supernal mother. Bina is also called the Great Sea, and Shahayatai, the sphere of Saturn. And as we continue, we shall find that the Sephiroth are called successively the spheres of the planets. But Bina is the first of the emanations to be assigned. Kether is called the first whirlings, and Chokmah the sphere of the zodiac. So if you want to look at, like, I guess, some symbols, so you could say Kether has a lot of symbols to it, and I have a video too on YouTube that shows all the symbols that correspond to Kether. But think of it as the first, like, whirlings of existence, right? And then Chokmah, especially in Dion Fortune's book, it's not just masculine or wisdom, it's also the zodiac. So the zodiac symbols. So the first planet doesn't even come into existence until Bina, which is Saturn. So you've got the whirlings at the top, on Chokmah at the top right, you've got the zodiac, and right there at the top left, you've got Saturn. And think of every one of these things that we're talking about as symbols of energy, right, that correspond to that sphere. Now Saturn, let's see. Yeah, so now Saturn is the father of the gods. He is the greatest of the old gods that were the predecessors of the Olympians over which Jupiter rules. In the secret titles attributed to the tarot trumps, the path of Saturn is called, according to Crowley, the Great One of the Night of Time. We have then Kether differentiating into an actively male potency, Chokmah, and a massive female potency, Bina, and these are placed at the head of the two-sided columns formed by the vertical alignment of the Sephiroth and their spacing on the Tree of Life. And of these two columns, the left hand, one under Bina, is called Severity, and the right hand, one under Chokmah, is called Mercy. The middle one under Kether is called Mildness, or the middle path, and it is said to be the column of equilibrium. These two side columns are the two pillars that stand at the entrance to King Solomon's temple and are represented in all lodges of the mysteries. The candidate himself, when he stands between them, is the middle pillar of equilibrium. Here we meet with the idea put forth by Blavatsky that there can be no manifestation without differentiation into the pairs of opposites. Kether differentiates its two aspects as Chokmah and Bina, and manifestation is in being. Now in this supernal triangle, the head which is not, the father and the mother, we have the root concept of our cosmogony, and we shall return to it again and again under innumerable aspects, and each time that we return to it, we shall receive illumination. These earlier chapters do not attempt to deal with any of the points exhaustively for reasons already noted. For the student unfamiliar with the subject, and there are few students who are familiar with it, has not yet got the necessary mental furniture of facts to enable him to appreciate the significance of a more detailed study. We are, at the present moment, engaged in assembling this furniture. In due course, we shall begin to arrange it into a house of life and study and detail. So, Bina, the superior mother, as distinguished from Malkuth, the inferior mother, or the bride of the microprosopos, or the Isis of nature, the 10th Sephiroth. And she's talking about Malkuth as it relates to Bina. So Bina would be the superior mother, and down in Malkuth would be the inferior mother, or princesses. This is two-aspected, and these aspects are distinguished as Amma, the dark, sterile mother, and Aima, the bright, fertile mother. We have already noted that she is called the Great Sea, Mara, which not only means bitter, but also is the root of Mary. And here we meet again the idea of the mother, at first virgin, and then with child by the Holy Spirit. Yeah, that's right. By the association of Bina with the sea, we are reminded that life at its primordial beginnings is in the waters. From the sea arose Venus, the archetypal woman. The association of Saturn suggests the idea of primordial age, before the gods that made the gods had drunk at eve their fill. It suggests that most ancient rocks, within the shady stillness of the veil, sat gray-haired Saturn, quiet as a stone. Max Heindel speaks of the Lords of Form as among the earliest phases of evolution, and an inspirational work in my possession. The Cosmic Doctrine speaks of the Lords of Form as the laws of geology. Considering again the symbolism of the two lateral columns of the tree, we see Chokma and Bina as force and form, the two units of manifestation. That's probably one of the easiest ways to look at the relative nature of Chokma and Bina, force and form. It would not profit us to go mere deeply into the endless ramifications of the symbolism at the present moment, for it is carrying us beyond the three Sephiroth we have already studied. Let us proceed to a further consideration of the mysteries of Da'ath, which never appears on the tree, and to which no deity name or angelic host is assigned, and which has no mundane symbol or planet or element, as have all the other stations on the tree. So Da'ath resides right kind of in the center there where you can't see it. So it's just below, if you're looking at the glyph, it's just below the gray and the black one on the middle pillar kind of, and you can't see it. But in other images, it'll be represented by like a dotted circle. Da'ath is produced by the conjunction of Chokma and Bina, as has been already noted. The supernal father, Abba, marries the supernal mother, Amma, and Da'ath is issued. And now Da'ath is called some curious things by the Kabbalists, and we will note a few of them. In verse 38 of the Book of Concealed Mystery, Mather's English translation from the Latin translation of Nor von Rosenroth, it says, "For father and mother are perpetually conjoined in Yesod, the foundation of the ninth Sephiroth, but concealed under the mystery of Da'ath, or knowledge." And in verse 40, we read concerning Da'ath, "The man that shall say, I am the Lord's, he descendeth, Yod, the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, which is the foundation of knowledge of the Father, but all things are called Byodo, Biodo. That is, all things are applied to Yod, concerning which this discourse is. All things cohere in the tongue, which is concealed in the mother." That is, in other words, through Da'ath, or knowledge, whereby wisdom is combined with understanding, and the beautiful path, Tifereth, the 6th Sephiroth, with his bride the queen, Malkuth, the 10th Sephiroth, and this is the concealed idea or soul pervading the whole emanation. Since it is open for that which proceedeth from itself, that is, Da'ath is itself the beautiful path, but also the inner whereto Moses referred, and that path lieth hidden within the mother, and as is the medium of its conjunction. When it is noted that Yod is identical with the lingam in the Hindu system, and that Kether, Da'ath, and the beautiful path Tiferet, the sixth Sephirah, are in a line on the middle pillar of the tree, which equates with the spine in man, the microcosm, and the Kundalini is coiled in Yesod, also on the middle pillar. We shall see that we have here an important key for those who are equipped to use it. That's a lot of confusing shit, Dion Fortune, explaining Da'ath. Some people don't even know where Yesod is, and you're already talking about it. So in the Greater Holy Assembly, verse 566, Mather's translation, we read concerning the head of the microprosopos, whose whole body is being taken as a glyph of the cosmos. From the third cavity, this is the quote, from the third cavity there goes forth 1,000 times 1,000 conclaves and assemblies, wherein Da'ath, or knowledge, is contained and dwelleth. And the hollow place of this cavity is between the other two cavities, and all these conclaves are filled from either side. This is that which is written in Proverbs, and in knowledge Da'ath shall the conclaves be filled, and those three are expanded over the whole body, on this side and on that, and with them does the whole body cohere, and the body is contained by them on every side, and through the whole body are they expanded and diffused. That's why I call Da'ath a portal, you know? It's a freaking portal, man. Because like when you get into looking into the Da'ath, right, and you start, like, this is the main tree glyph, but when you really get into it, you got the four worlds, and then there's like trees inside of every Sephiroth, and there's trees within trees, and it kind of does this whole flower of life thing. Da'ath is like that portal to which all of this stuff flowers out into all those different trees and stuff. Speaking of immaculate conceptions, has anyone heard of the alligator that just got pregnant after 16 years alone and kept? That's not possible. How can an alligator get pregnant by itself? It's spot on, but above my head. Well, the way she tries to speak is above everybody's head. But really, think of Da'ath as the great mystery to, like, it's the abyss, right? For sure, when it comes to the levels of consciousness. Like, I don't know why I got into this discussion with one that occultists are, I'm going to cross the abyss, but you're in a human body. I mean, the most that you're going to do as a human is become Christ-like. That's the most you can do, is the Tiferet consciousness, you know, that middle sphere or the holy hexagram. That's the most you're going to become in a body. If you want to cross into Da'ath and go back into the beginnings of manifestation, you got to go through a portal. You're going to turn into a worm, man. This is where, like, some occultists start going crazy and stuff, too. So when it is recalled that Da'ath is situated at the point where the abyss bisects the middle pillar, and that up the middle pillar lies the path of the arrow, the way by which consciousness goes when the psychic rises on the planes, and that here also is Kundalini, we see that in Da'ath is the secret of both generation and regeneration, the key to manifestation of all things through the differentiation into pairs of opposites and their union in a third. Thus doth the tree unfold its secrets to the Kabbalists. So, like, have you guys ever seen a picture? I should have thrown one up, but it shows the coiling snake that goes up the tree. You can think of the middle pillar like the spinal cord and these, like, chakras. Of course, you saw the purple one right above Malkuth at the bottom there. That's your generative forces in the body, your sexual generative forces. It's also the moon. It corresponds with that, you know. And then as you go up into the heart where the Tiferet center is, that chakra that it corresponds with, and then another one is Da'ath, where your throat chakra is. So as this energy rises up, guess where the ultimate hidden knowledge is? Right in the throat. And hopefully, you know, you've done your work properly, so when it gets there, whatever the fork comes out of your mouth or whatever vibration you're emitting is good. Because the word is ultimate power, man. I think when we figure all this out, we'll be able to, like, vibrate portals with our own mouths. basically. So the second triangle upon the tree of life, and this is what we're doing, just so you know, I hope you're picking up on this pattern. So she did the first triangle at the top. That's what she's talking about. And so this thing is going to mirror and fold down into the second triangle, where it's like an upside down triangle. So you're going to have Chesed, the blue one with the square, and Gabor, the red one with the pentagram, as the I guess you could say the hypotenuse of the triangle. It's not really a hypotenuse though. And it flips down into Tifereth, which is that Christ-like energy. So the second triangle upon the tree of life is formed of the Sephiroth Chesed, Gabora, and Tifereth. Chesed is formed by the overflowing of Bina, and is situated in the right-hand pillar of mercy, and immediate below Chokmah. So the angel of the lightning flash, which is used to indicate the course of the emanations upon the tree, slopes downwards to the right across the glyph from Bina at the head of the pillar of severity to Chesed, which occupies the middle section of the pillar of mercy. Then the flash turns and goes horizontally across the glyph back into the pillar of severity, in the middle section of which is found the Sephirah Gabura. Down to the right slopes once more the symbol of emanating force and indicates the Sephirah Tifra, which occupies the very center of the tree and the pillar of mildness or equilibrium. These three Sephiroth constitute the next functional triangle we have to consider. And although we do not intend to go exhaustively into their symbolism until we have completed our schematic survey of the whole system, it is necessary to say enough to give some clue to their significance and enable them to be assigned to a place in the concept we are building up. This concept is so vast and so innate in its elaboration of detail that to attempt to teach it exhaustively from A to Z must end in confusion. Only gradually can it reveal its significance to the student as one aspect interprets another. My method of teaching the tree may not be ideal from the point of view of systematic thought, but I believe it is the only one which will enable the beginner to get the hang of the subject. It was upon the tree that I got my own mystical training, and I have lived and moved and had my being in its company for a good many years now. So I feel that I am competent to speak upon it from the point of view of practical mysticism, for I know from my own experience the difficulties of getting hold of the Kabbalistic system, so intricate, abstract, and voluminous, and yet so comprehensive and satisfactory once it is mastered. Before we can consider the second triangle of the tree as a unit, we must know the meaning of its component Sephirah. Chesed means mercy or love, and it is also called Gedula, or greatness or magnificence, and to it are assigned the sphere of the planet Jupiter. Gabora means strength, and it is also called Pekad, or fear, and to it is assigned the sphere of the planet Mars. Tifereth means beauty, and to it is assigned the sphere of the sun. When the gods of the various pagan pantheons are being correlated with the spheres on the tree, it will be found that the sacrifice gods invariably come on to Tifereth, and for this reason it has been called the Christ Center in the Christian Qabalah. We now have sufficient material to make a survey of the second triangle. Jupiter, the beneficent ruler and lawgiver, is balanced by Mars, the warrior, the fiery and destructive force, and the two are equilibrated in Tifereth, the redeemer. In the supernal triangle, we see primarily Sephiroth emanating a pair of opposites, which express the two sides of its nature, Chokmah, force, and Bina, form, masculine and feminine, Sephiroth, respectively. But in the second triangle, we have the pairs of opposites, which find their equilibrium in a third, placed upon the middle pillar of the tree. And from this, we deduce that the first triangle derives its significance from that which lies behind it, and the second triangle derives its significance from that which it issues forth. In the first triangle, we find a representation of the creative forces of the substance of the universe, and in the second, we have a representation of the governing forces of life. And Chesed is the wise and kindly king. So we're talking about the blue sphere on the right with the square in it. That's Chesed. And Chesed is the wise and kindly king, the father of his people, organizing his realm, building up industry, fostering learning, and bringing gifts of the civilization. Also here corresponds with what? All the fours of the tarot. Okay? In Qabalah, we have a warrior king, leading his people in battle, defending his kingdom from the assaults of the enemy, extending his boundaries by conquest, pushing crime and destroying evildoers, which is the red sphere on the left, right across from the blue one. Also corresponds there are all the fives in the tarot too, okay? And in Tifereth, we have the Savior, sacrificed upon the cross for the salvation of his people, and thereby bringing Qabalah into equilibrium with Gedula, or Chesed. And here we find the sphere of all the beneficent sun gods and healing gods. We see that the mercies of Gedula and the severeness of Qabalah unite for the healing of the nations. So think about all the sixes when it comes to on the tarot too. Not just like the sun or the hexagram or all of the sacrifice gods and their energies exist in this sphere of Tifereth, but the sixes, everything that they represent on the tarot. And also in the tarot, it's going to be the princes. And in the knights is going to be it'll be the knights in the Arthur Edward Waite tarot, the prince in the Crowley tarot, and I still think it's the prince, isn't it? Yeah, the prince and the Golden Dawn tarot. Okay, so behind Tifereth, traversing the tree, is drawn Peroketh, the veil of the temple, the analog or the lower plane of the abyss, which separates the three supernals from the rest of the tree. Like the abyss, the veil marks a chasm in consciousness. The mode of mentation on one side of the chasm differs in kind from the mode of mentation prevailing upon the other. Tifereth is the highest sphere to which normal human consciousness can rise. When Philip said to our Lord, "Show us the Father," and Jesus replied, "He that hath seen me has seen the Father." All the human mind can know of Kether is its reflection in Tifereth, the Christ center, the sphere of the sun. Peroketh is the veil of the temple, which was rent asunder the crucifixion. So when you see the glyphs, if you want to understand like Peroketh, you'll see this line called the veil of Peroketh, which is kind of like right under Tifereth. It's just like a line, and it'll say the veil of Peroketh. And all of the Golden Dawn temples that you see are everything outside of that veil, right? So Malkuth, the double cubed altar and everything is Malkuth, right? It also is the earth element. Then you've got Yesod as air, Hod as water, and Venus as fire. And then you'll see it in the temple. Like, it'll all make sense as you go along. It's kind of complex now, though. What's up, Aussie girl? You're the second person talking about the crocodile that got pregnant on its own. I don't know how that happens. How does that happen? Must be a Christ-like crocodile about to come out of it. We now, in our brief preliminary survey to the third triangle, composed of the Sephron, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. So the third triangle is this one down here now, because this one's going to flip again, right? So we have Netzach, the green one, with the 7-starred, the Venus representation. And then we have Hod, which is 8. Where you have this like 8-pointed star, which is like 2 kind of squares inside each other, which is orange. That's Netzach is green, Hod is orange. That's the orange one. Yesod is the purple one. That is the third triangle. Which is, so it's composed of this third triangle, composed of Netzach, Hod, and Yesod. Netzach, spelled Netzach, is the basal sephra of the pillar of mercy. Hod is the basal sephra of the pillar of severity. And Yesod is upon the middle pillar of mildness or equilibrium, in direct alignment with Kether and Tifereth. Thus the third triangle is an exact replica of the second triangle upon a lower arc. The meaning of Netzach is victory, and to it is assigned the sphere of the planet Venus. The meaning of Hod is glory, and to it is assigned the sphere of the planet Mercury. And the meaning of Yesod is foundation, and to it is assigned the sphere of the moon. So while the second triangle might not inaptly be termed the ethical triangle, the third may well be called the magical triangle. And if we assign to Kether the sphere of the 3 in 1, then the undivided unit and the undivided unity, and to Tiferet the sphere of the Redeemer or Son, we may be justified in referring to Yesod the sphere of the Holy Spirit, the Enlightener. And this is an attribution of the Christian Trinity that fits better upon the tree than it's assigned to the three supernals, which brings the Son in the place of Abba, the Father and the Holy Spirit in the place of Amma, the Mother, and is obviously irrelevant and productive of innumerable discrepancies in the correspondences and symbolisms. So if it's irrelevant, then why say it? Because you're just confusing more people. In this, we see an example of the value of the tree as a method of counter-checking vision or meditation. Correct attributions fit upon the tree through endless ramifications of symbolism, as we saw when considering Bina as the mother. Incorrect symbolism breaks down and reveals its bizarre association at the first attempt to follow out a chain of correspondences. It is amazing what ramifications of association chains can be followed when the attribution is correct. It seems as if it were only the extent of our knowledge which limits the length of the chain that can be linked logically together. It will extend through science, art, mathematics, and the epochs of history, through ethics, psychology, and physiology. It was this peculiar method of using the mind which in all probability gave the ancients their premature knowledge of natural science, knowledge which has had its to await the dream analysis of analytical psychology. We might describe it as the symbol using power of the subconscious mind. It is an instructive experiment to toss a mass of irrelevant symbolism into the mind and watch it sort itself out in the meditation upon the tree, rising into consciousness in long association chains like dream analysis. Whatever, man. I would just say ignore that whole paragraph because it has nothing to do with the third supernal, if you ask, or the third triangle, if you ask me. So Netzach is the sphere of the goddess of nature, Venus. Hod is the sphere of Mercury, the Greek analog of the Egyptian Thoth, the lord of books and learning. Observing their opposition, we shall expect to find two different aspects represented in them, these finding their equilibrium in a third, which is Yesod, the sphere of Luna, or the moon. We see then a triangle composed of the Lady of Nature, the Lord of Books, and the Mistress of Witchcraft. In other words, subconsciousness and superconsciousness correlate in psychism. That's a pretty cool analogy of them, though. Anyone who is familiar with practical mysticism knows that there are three paths of the superconsciousness devotional mysticism which correlates with Tiferet. Nature mysticism of the inebriating Dionysian type, which equates the Venus sphere of Netzach, and the intellectual mysticism of the occult type, which equates with Hod, the sphere of Thoth, the lord of magic. Tiferet, as will be seen by reference to the diagram of the tree, belongs to a higher plane than any member of the third triangle. Yesod, on the other hand, is drawing very near to the sphere of Earth. So here you got like what she's saying in this green sphere of Netzach and Venus. Think about these energies, right? Venus, the number 7, Aphrodite, nature, all that kind of stuff, right? So you'll notice too that once you really start studying the tree, you'll start noticing that certain people adhere to certain systems too. They'll actually have more, how we kind of tend to categorize people astrologically. But if you begin to learn the tree, you can really understand people and kind of categorize them based on the tree of life if you want to. So a lot of people that are drawn spiritually to nature and Aphrodite and these kind of, or Dionysian things like that, right? Nature stuff. They have a lot of this energy in them versus there's other people that's the direct opposite of Hod over here on the orange one. There are other people that are attracted to more of like book learning and magic, so to speak, like ceremonial magic, book learning, more of a, I guess you could say, tighter, logical mind about these things. Now, one's not better than the other. They exist on the same plane, but they are kind of opposites, so to speak, in this sense. But in this case, they're not mediated by Tiferet, they're mediated by Yesod, the purple sphere of the moon. All right, we got 15 minutes. See if I can finish this chapter. So we're going to talk about the purple sphere now a little bit, the tip of the third triangle. So to Yesod are assigned all the deities that have the moon in their symbolism. Luna herself, Hecate with her dominion over evil magic, Diana with her presidency over childbirth, the physical moon, Yesod and Asaya, as the Kabbalists would say, with its 28-day cycle, correlates with the reproductive cycle of the human female. And if the symbolism of Luna, the lunar crescent, be traced through the various pantheons, it will be found that the deities associated with it are predominantly female. It is interesting to note, in confirmation of our assignation of the Holy Spirit to Yesod, that according to Mathers, the Holy Spirit is a feminine force. He says in Qabalah Unveiled, page 22, quote, "We are usually told that the Holy Spirit is masculine, but the word ruach, spirit, is feminine, as appears from the following passage of the Sefer Yetzirah. Akath, feminine, not Akkad, masculine. Ruach, Elohim, chum. One is she, the spirit of the Elohim of life. When we consider the middle pillar as referring to levels of consciousness, we shall find further confirmation of this view. There remains, for our final consideration, the last sphere, Malkuth, the kingdom, earth. This Sephirah differs from the other in several aspects or respects. Firstly, it is not part of any equilibrated triangle in the tree, but is said to be the receptacle of the influence of all the others. Secondly, it is a fallen Sephirah, for it was cut off from the rest of the tree by the fall, and the coils of the stooping dragon arising from the world of shells, the kingdoms of unbalanced force, separate it from its brethren. That's why you see Malkuth so far away, so far down from the tree, right? Behind the shoulder of the queen, the bride of the Microprosopos, or Malkuth, the serpent rears its head, and here is said to be the place of severest judgment. The sphere of Malkuth abuts upon the hells of the averse Sephiroth, the Clipoth, or evil demons. It is the firmament whereby Elohim separated the supernal waters of Bina from the infernal waters of the Leviathan. The significant, and when she says Clipoth, that's the reverse tree. So there's another tree that flips upon itself that's got all the dark energies of each Sephirah underneath it, if you want to look at it that way. But it's the negative energies of all these spheres, right? So Earth is in Middle Earth, just like in the Lord of the Rings, is in the middle. So think of this tree as like heaven, and the Clipoth tree is hell, and Malkuth is right there in the middle of both of them. That's why the bottom part of Malkuth you'll see is black. Because it's a blending of all the colors, right? Did I just read this? Hold on. There remains our final consideration. Yeah, okay. The sphere of Malkuth abuts upon the hells of the averse Sephiroth, the Clipoth, or evil demons. It is the firmament whereby Elohim separated the supernal waters of Bina from the infernal waters of the Leviathan. Okay. So the signification of the Clipoth must be considered in due course. But having referred to them here in order to explain the position of Malkuth, we must say something further in order to render the explanation intelligible. The Clipoth, singular Clippa, an inmost woman or harlot, are the evil or averse Sephirah, each an emanation of unbalanced force from its corresponding sphere upon the holy tree. These emanations took place during the critical periods of evolution when the Sephiroth were not in equilibrium. For this reason, they are referred to as the kings of unbalanced force, or the kings of Edom, who ruled before there was a king in Israel, as the Bible puts it. And in the words of the Sephirah Dinotha, the book of conclave mystery, quote, "For before there was equilibrium, countenance beheld not countenance, and the kings of ancient time were dead, and their crowns were found no more, and the earth was desolate," end quote. So we have now completed our preliminary survey of the Tree of Life and the arrangement of the 10 holy Sephirah thereon. We also have some clue to their significance and have been given a hint or two of the manner in which the mind works when it uses these cosmic symbols for its meditations. Consequently, we are now in a position to assign each fresh bit of information to its correct position in our scheme. We are building upon the jigsaw puzzle with a knowledge of the outlines of the picture. Crowley has aptly likened the tree to a card index file in which each symbol is an envelope. This is a simile which it would be difficult to improve upon. In the course of our studies, we shall begin to fill these filing cases and define the cross-indexing among them indicated by the appearance of the same symbol in other associations. Yeah. So she is gonna go into each Sephirah. So she's explained the Ain, the Ain Sah 4, like the emanations which are above the tree. She's explained Kether. She's explained the first triangle, then the reverse, the second triangle, right, and then the third triangle, and then Malkuth. What she's going to talk about next are the patterns, because there's all kinds of different patterns and classifications, etc., that you can see in the tree. So just if anybody wants like a simple breakdown, you can go to my YouTube channel on the video side, not the live side, and there's like the introduction to the Kabbalah, where I break down the Sephiroth. All this stuff way more simple, but you got to get complex too, right? You got to show both sides of it. So you've got Kether at the top, Chokmah at the top right, Bina at the top left. That's the first supernal triangle, right? Creation, wisdom, and understanding, or creation, masculine and feminine, or creation, alpha and omega, or the whirling, whatever, the whirling force, the zodiac, and Saturn. All three exist. All three energies exist inside of Bina, the black sphere of Saturn. When that thing flips over, it flips down on itself. You have the second triangle, Chesed, Geburah, and Tifereth. Chesed is the blue one with the four-sided square, which means mercy. Geburah is the red one, which is the pentagram, or the pentagon even, which means severity. Now you know why our government had a building and called it the Pentagon, where all our military exists. So you know that they understood this too, or whoever created it. And in the middle, at the very tip of that triangle, is Tifereth, the balance force, or the Christ-like being, or the sacrifice God, or the sun, or the holy hexagram. Yeah. What's up, Ryan? Thanks for joining us. Then you have that triangle that flips upon itself again. Then you have Netzach, the green one, Hod, the orange one here, and Yesod, the purple one. You've got victory, glory, and foundation. You've got nature, Venus, Aphrodite, or Thoth, Hermes, Mercury, or all that kind of stuff. And it mediate in the middle, you've got the moon, right? The moon kind of has all of it, mediation in there. It's feminine too, though. The moon represents, it's the number 9. You'll see that all in the Bible. If you study gematria, it's a whole other thing. Formation, right? formative energies, reproductive energies, 28-day cycles, lunar cycles, all of the gods that correspond with the moon and the tarot card that corresponds with it, all this stuff in my head that my ADD brain can't think of. And then you've got Malkuth at the bottom, which is like separated. So it's kind of far separated from the tree. They make, like in a lot of these books, they make the Malkuth kind of bad. It's like that dense energy, which is why the colors are russet and dark green and black. It's a mixture of all the colors. And that's where they put the princesses in the tarot. The aces are in Kether. The princesses or the thrones are in Malkuth. I don't want to get into the patterns. I think that's enough, right, for tonight? Although the patterns on the trees are kind of a small chapter. So tomorrow night, we should go through that pretty quick, I think. Because, damn, that was a big, like the 3 triangles, that was a big one. So we'll get into tomorrow night we'll get into the patterns and the paths upon the tree. And then, I don't know, she's got another chapter called The Subjective Sephiroth. And then the gods upon the tree. That's when things start getting interesting. Yeah. I know it's a lot, man, but by the time, that's one of the beautiful things about this book. By the time you get through it, she goes over the same stuff so much over and over again that you begin to understand some of the stuff that she said before. It's worth it. What I'm not sure that's going to be worth it is later, if I want to edit it all and put it in, I'm going to have to, like I do most of these books, like I did with Psychic Self-Defense, I'm going to have to edit all these shows and make it one big audio book, though. All right. We're going to roll out of here. So, Princess in the Dark, interesting concept. Well, just think of it, well, like earlier, you know how she said that Saturn was the mother, right? The greater mother energy, and Malkuth is the kind of lesser microprosopos, or you could say lesser mother or princess energy. That's why they have the princesses that represent that. Just look at the videos that I did for the introduction to Kabbalah and the tarot. But it also explains very well, in my opinion, why a lot of guys are mad that the feminine nature is all about resources and money, and they're princess. You know, if you get on this like red pill stuff, they get mad at like women that are a certain way. But, and there is definitely a dark aspect to it, but a lot of them are just having, it's like they're just, in my opinion, they're tapped into their feminine, man. They're tapped into this idea of nature and life. Think about it, right? If the feminine takes the masculine energy like this, if you want to think about it like in a bigger abstract way, the feminine takes in the masculine energy and gives life and birth to things. So obviously feminine energy is going to be focused upon things like resources, you know. How is it going to be practical in life and all this other shit that the red pill guys are mad at. There is 100% definitely a dark aspect to it. But just like that, there's also masculine. There's kind of a higher masculine energy that goes from, you know, kind of like Chesed and, Chokmah. But then there's a lower, darker form to it too. You really want to go there? It's all in the tree, man. And when I do stupid shit in my life, like when I do dumb shit or when I make a mistake or when I do stupid stuff, what I've learned to do over the years is like ask myself what part, like I'll relate that to the tree, like what part of me did that? Right? So let's say, for instance, I got mad or angry or even violent. Well, obviously that energy comes from severity. right? The sphere of Gabora. There's a dark side and a healthy side to that sphere. But if you go through the tarot and you start learning the concepts of the energy in the tarot, all the 5 cards that correspond with it, you can see like, okay, well, let's take the 5 of Pentacles, for example, right? So if I have all this Martian energy and it's focused upon earthly things and the earth element, next thing you know, and Arthur Edwards' Waite's card, it shows 2 people outside of the church in the cold, right? Why is that? Why are they outside of the church by themselves walking in the cold? Think about it. None of the 5 cards turn out very good in the tarot, do they? You see 5 of Pentacles and 5 of Cups? Nope. 5 of Swords? No, that just shows you winning a battle and being an asshole. 5 of Wands? No, that's another fight. You see what I mean? You could study the Kabbalah through the tarot too. For sure. All right, we're going to get out of here. I think Jess changed her show to 2 nights a week. I think she wants to do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 10, so I don't think she's on tonight, but she'll be on tomorrow night. So we'll see you guys tomorrow night. We'll continue our discussion on the Tree of Life. I know it's very comprehensive, but it's the once you understand this whole thing, if you get to understand it, you'll understand just about everything when it comes to like magic, the occult, and the esoteric. You really will. It'll be worth it. All right. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams. Night night.